So in this Creative Confidence catch up, we're going to be chatting with Will. So Will, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Um, this is like the most difficult question to answer because, like, who am I? I don't know. It changes every day. The minute that I think I've got a beat on it, it changes. Um, and like that question specifically, who am I, was is something that I've been trying to answer since I was a kid, like really young. And that question sent me through so many um sent me through uh, a lot of pain trying to
Mhm.
find the answer to that because I didn't know how to look for it or how to find it. And I desperately wanted to know. So the best answer that I can give for that is I am a collection of the decisions and actions and choices that I'm making right now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not a year ago, not next year, but right now in this moment.
Yeah, that is such a good
Um, but
answer.
I, but I guess to answer for this conversation, for this back and forth, uh, um, I'm somebody who's trying to be better
Mhm.
today than I was yesterday. Um, I work in tech. I've worked in tech for 14 years now. Um, and I'm a writer and I'm a dog dad and I like baseball. And I paint my nails.
Awesome. Nice color. I do like that color. But basically that's a great summary, and I just love that, like how you're trying to, yeah, just be better in general every day, and I just love that sort of. I don't know. That's a great outlook. So I think that's a great start for getting to know you a bit. But yeah, my first question to you is, can you tell us a bit about maybe a setback that's affected your confidence in the past, be it negative most likely, and how that might have affected how you feel today in regards to finding a sense of who you are?
I mean, I think everything affects my confidence,
Mhm,
maybe more so than others, because anything that anything that makes me question
mhm,
it affects my confidence. Even if it's something that like I know is the right thing or the answer or whatever, and it's greeted with something with the best response, then I'm thinking like, oh well, what more could there be, right?
I see,
So
I
like
see.
I'm eternally like looking for either like how to be better or why I'm not as good.
Mm,
um
that makes sense. Alright.
but I guess like the precipice moment for me, like the keystone of like the thing that like made it all come crashing down, um, would be my final. It was probably my final bottom, um, that spurred me to recovery and to get well. And uh, seeing my dad, I had never to this point I had never seen my dad cry, and seeing my dad cry. I mean, his mom died and he
Yeah.
didn't cry.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
my dad does not cry.
Mhm.
Like this isn't like a macho thing. Like he just isn't
No.
that kind of person.
Mhm.
And so having my dad in front of me in tears and not knowing like it it rocked me to my core. And I realized in that moment that I didn't know shit.
Mhm.
I didn't know I didn't know how to make it better, and everything that I thought I knew, I didn't.
Mm. Makes you start to kind of question everything then, doesn't it? For somebody who hasn't said anything. like been emotional to get to that point where they are emotional, that is a huge sort of, it's the opposite ends of the scale, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and it answered questions that I had had my whole life. Like, does my dad care about me? Does my dad
Yeah.
love me? You
Oh,
know,
wow.
like
Yeah, yeah.
we didn't say those words in my family. And so I knew finally that my dad loved me, but also I was like, I have no idea how to fix this.
Yes, I see, I see. So do you think like, so my second question is then, do you think having maybe grown up thinking these different things because of not having a response sort of thing until that moment, do you think that you'd say that would have affected your confidence as you've grown up and maybe that's the reason why you kind of questioning everything around you? Or do you think it could just be society as it is?
If it wasn't my dad giving or my parents giving me reasons to, you know, have problems, it would have been somebody else.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
quite
yeah.
frankly, I have amazing parents.
Oh, that's nice.
They don't kids don't come with a with a manual,
No.
and so if ever I uh, reference something that like I wish my parents had done differently, um, it's not. I'm the only person that can say that. My
Oh,
parents
yeah.
are amazing,
No.
and I like to say that anytime that we're talking about parents because I think it can go off the deep end real quick.
Mhm.
And there are people who legitimately have parents that were like absent in their lives
Yes.
or like didn't exist at all
Mhm.
or, you know, beat them or
Yeah.
worse.
Mhm.
And I didn't experience any of that. They struggled to raise me. And who wouldn't? I was a hellion. But anyways, so yeah, it wouldn't be fair to leave that on my folks.
No, no.
I was born this way,
Yeah.
you know? Like I fell out of my mom's womb and into despair immediately.
Mhm.
And nothing like, like just like nothing was ever enough and I had to find whatever was out
Yeah,
there.
I totally get that. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's great. This is such a really interesting conversation, but I just thought like so many perspectives different people have. So it's great. This is great. This is great. So but third question. So how did you get into like SEO then? Like you were saying this isn't creative, but I think this is somehow.
Oh, it is. So I got into tech. Well, so SEO was, well, okay. So I was in school for creative writing and lit.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't consider myself a creative because like I'm not a visual art, I'm not a visual or musical artist.
Okay, I
Um,
see. Hmm.
but I've been a writer since I was a kid. I grew up writing poetry and short stories. But I've always written what I know. So for me, that's not really creative, right? Like I'm not in that, I'm not creating a universe like Star Wars or whatever.
Hmm.
So to me, like it just, anyways. So I was in school for creative writing and lit, and I got hired to write a video game,
Wow.
and that video game, at the end of it, um, the marketing team came to me and they were showing me like how they were going to market it. And so they were showing me like blogs and like social media posts and all this stuff. And a couple of things happened there. Number one, I used which I didn't know these things were like a thing, but I used some of the first like product marketing and search engine optimization techniques that I had ever used. I didn't even know they were a thing.
This is so
I
cool.
was really just like trying to figure out
Mm.
like, okay, how do I take this thing that I wrote and then like how do I make like how do I make people resonate with it?
Right. Okay.
Um, so that was, and then the other thing was I learned that people got paid to write. I thought I was
Woohoo!
going to be a starving artist until I wrote
Yeah.
the next great American novel. Like,
Mm. But
um,
can I just add something in there though? I think like with confidence, confidence comes with knowledge perhaps, and I can see this like, and I feel like your creativity is being pulled out, and through that, your confidence is being boosted.
yeah, I mean, like, look, I was thinking about this
Hmm.
like earlier this morning. I was thinking about this question,
Yeah.
like, am I creative, or like, how am I creative? Like, I think I am incredibly creative, but like, it just doesn't show up on. It doesn't show up on the page.
Right. I see. Get you. Hmm.
It shows up in other ways.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, anyway, so they showed me all that stuff, and eventually I got hired. So I dropped out of college and was like, all right, I don't need to go to college anymore. Like, I have the skills to do this. So I worked for free for like a year, during the day, writing articles and blog posts for people, and then at night I was serving and bartending to pay the bills. And anyways, so I ended up getting hired by a software development publication, and as a writer, and I was supposed to write articles for software developers, and they had a really mature site, so traffic wasn't really a problem until it was. And then when traffic was a problem, we didn't have anybody that was an SEO person. And so my all of my first experiences with SEO were by need and by accident, and I didn't know what I was doing. So the only thing that I had to go off of was our customers.
Yes.
And so I did things and then I found out later on that, like, oh, that's what Google wants anyways. Like, they want me to think about our
Yeah.
customers. They
Hmm.
want us to be authentic. They want us to be an authority. They want us to share from our experiences.
That's
Um,
interesting.
so that was how I got into it. And
That.
yes, it's an incredibly creative process, because you take, especially in really technical things, or in hardware and software, you take something that's like super technical and like right brain and mathy, and you got to figure out a way, like, how are people searching to find this thing,
Yeah.
or like, what are people doing when they do find this thing,
Hmm.
or what are they doing when they buy the thing or test the thing or get a trial for the thing. Um and so, like, you have to it's sort of like a blend. My whole career has sort of been this blend of like science, psychology, sociology, and all of that is underpinned by this ability to write. And the reason that writing has made me effective is because of rhetoric, which is a type of writing,
Okay.
um, uh, and the ability to communicate written from one place to another creates, like, if you can do that, and if you practice that, it enables you to communicate in all these other ways.
Hmm.
So whether that's through a search engine, or through content marketing, or through email marketing, and when you do all those things, and like you get an understanding of like what's happening, then you have to get then like that's when the creativity comes in, because then you're like, okay, so like, here's the playing field, and here's where the goal is. How do I get to the goal on this playing field? Because what they don't teach you in college, and what they can't teach you in a boot camp or a course, is because all those colleges, boot camps, courses, all of that happens in a vacuum.
Hmm.
The real world doesn't happen in a vacuum. So like, I got to take these 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 programs and these processes and these frameworks and these concepts, and I have to figure out how to weave them in to the real world,
Yeah. 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 Totally get
because
that.
life doesn't happen in a vacuum.
No, no. And also, Like, I always find when people talk about marketing and things like that, it's not necessarily about what it is that you know, it's how it's gonna serve its purpose and if it's gonna help people, and it's finding there, isn't it? It's okay doing this, that, and the other, but if it's not, like, actually helping those people who you're trying to serve, there's no point in it, is there?
Yep.
So, my next question then. So, in terms of support then, would you say you've got somebody that, you when it comes to support, whether this be, during your time, doing SEO or, just in general, yeah, have you got a community of people that surround you or people who you look up to, who have got you from A to B or helped you to get from A to B, should I say?
Yeah. So I don't just do SEO. I work in my career has spanned product, product and project.
Mhm.
That I've worked on products both on in development and test, and in marketing. And then I've worked uh the projects that I've worked on have all been like IT developer centered things. Um and and then SEO and 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 web marketing is kind of attached into all of
Uh-huh.
that. So anyways, yeah, there are very few people that I look up to,
Mm,
because I see everybody as just people. Um, Recently, there are a couple of folks that I look up to that I met over the last year or two or three, on online. One of them is Sarah Edie. Um, she is one of the most rock star product marketers I've met. She really blends she really has a blend of product development and communication in with her product marketing. She's doing things that that these companies use as kitschy terms, but she actually does them.
right, okay.
Um, and then there's a couple of other folks that I've met online that I think are just phenomenal. Um, Michael Cassidy, Adriana, she has an awesome story. Um, Not that, I mean, everybody's story is awesome because it's theirs. But personally, like my support system really consists of a family that refuses to give up on me, um, my dog, my sponsor, and um, a couple of friends. My circle's pretty small. Um,
I think that's always a good thing. Keep
I'm
it
sure I'm
small.
missing
It's all good.
somebody. I'm sure I'm
Mm.
forgetting somebody.
It's all good. It's all good. No, no. But that's it. That's it. Great though. Like having those people. It's easy. It's I find it's better to have a small, a close group than a lot of people that aren't necessarily say who they are. But yeah, keeping it small, it helps with those genuine connections sort of thing. But I totally agree with that. That's cool. So how would you describe your well, now I'm going to ask you, how would you describe your creativity then? Because there is creativity there. So how would you just even if it's one word, what would you sum it up as? How would you describe it?
Cross functional and interlaced.
Like that?
So I mean, like some people like they can take in they can come up with they can just like they can paint a thing.
Mhm.
I can't. Some people can like write this like big amazing novel. You know, I can't. Um, but I can take pieces that have no business um being connected and I can connect them.
You know, that's what I kind of do that too. So I I kind of gone from embroidery. That was my thing. Like that's what I went to uni for. And then suddenly I'm in ceramics. And then now I'm like, how do I mix the two? And it's so weird, but it's so cool. It's like, but I love that. Like,
You ceramics are so good.
what's that? Sorry.
Your ceramics are so good.
I like just begin it. Well, I did a bit of so I did 3 years of like decorating. So it was decorating ceramics. But then I so like to actually throw pots. Yeah, I've only been in it for about August, but it's so much fun.
You're so good. You've only been doing that since August?
Yeah,
That's
it's fun. It's
amazing.
fun. It'd be great to like have people like maybe people such as yourselves and people who've been on the podcast come over, do some pots with us.
I would love to learn. That's something I've
That's so
always wanted
cool.
to learn.
It's so good. It is. It's fun. It is fun. So in response to like your work then, so like into is when you talked about like the idea of sciences and this and that, all of that being interweaved into one, would you say, and
Mhm.
mixing it over?
Yeah.
I love that. That's so cool. Exciting. So I've already asked you about like the SEO and what it is that you're doing if you think it's creative. So I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there that you are. Yeah, yeah. um. So last thing I think I'll leave with then is any words of wisdom or words of encouragement that you think people would like to hear today.
Uh, I'm not a leader. I'm not an influencer. I'm a nobody. Um, so the concept when I read that, like the concept of me like leaving somebody with like words of wisdom or encouragement, uh, it's a bit uncomfortable for me.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Um,
cool.
but I'll say that, if I can get better, absolutely anybody can. Because I've been a hot mess. I mean, I'm a hot mess and I will be until I die. But um I was on the self-destructive rampage of three generations. I mean, like it's gonna be I mean, I was something else. Um, all in the name of destroying myself. Not anybody else but myself. Um, and if I can get better, anybody can. And that doesn't mean that like I'm better per se. Like I'm not done and it's not over and it can all be undone in an instant. But if I can get well, anybody can. And that doesn't mean that like it's just easy and it's just a flick of the wrist. Um, but it can be done. And there are people who know how they did it and they can share that with you. And I can't tell you how to get well. I can tell you what I did. I can tell you what I do today. Um, and I think that that's important when we're trying to learn how to do these things. I think it's important to look for that. Look for somebody who's telling you how they did it, not how you should do it.
Hmm.
Number one, if you tell me what to do, this conversation's over.
Yeah, yeah,
I know I'm not listening. I'm sorry. I'm not wired that way. Like I can't.
yeah.
I just, you know, my brain turns off when I hear somebody talking at me.
Yes.
But number two, like the reality is that I don't know what's best for you
Yeah,
or
exactly.
anybody.
Mm,
I don't know.
yeah.
I was reading this dude mansplaining to somebody on LinkedIn yesterday, and he started with, I don't know your situation, and then proceeds to
Two.
give unsolicited advice. And I'm like,
It's
you
like,
just said it. You don't know.
yeah, got you.
So my point in saying all this is like if you want to get well, you can. And there are people like myself who have put a few days behind them. For me, it's been almost 4 years. Um, and those folks can probably show you how they did it. And if they're willing to show you how they did it, maybe that's somebody worth listening to, or at least hearing out. Um, but I think it's really important that we look for people who are doing that and connect and share. And I know how hard it is, but connecting, sharing, hearing, listening, being of service to others, like those things really, they've saved my life.
That's real. No, thank you so much for joining us today, Will. It's been a really insightful conversation, and I'm sure everybody who's on YouTube will find it really insightful too. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Amy.